For 5 years, the story of Massachusetts real estate was a monologue. Prices went up, inventory went down, and if you weren't a millionaire, you were a spectator. We were told that the Bay State was immune to the laws of economic gravity. That demand would always outstrip supply. But as we sit here in April 2026, the silence in the open houses is becoming deafening. Interest rates didn't just stay high, they reshaped who can afford to play. And for the first time in a decade, the price-reduced banner isn't a sign of a bad house. It's a sign of a new market. Today, Inside Massachusetts isn't just looking at the news. We are looking at the truth hidden in the MLS data. We are uncovering 10 specific towns where the fever has finally broken. Places where buyers are regaining their voices and sellers are finally checking their egos at the door. From the tech hubs of Central Mass to the historic streets of the South Coast, the map is changing. And if you've been waiting for a sign to stop renting and start owning, this is it. But before we can look at the map, we have to understand the engine that drove this state to the brink of unaffordability and why that engine is finally running out of steam. It all starts with the gateway cities that once led the charge. If Boston is the brain of Massachusetts, Worcester is the heart. And right now, that heart is beating at a much slower, more sustainable pace. For the last 3 years, Worcester was the hottest market in America. People fleeing Boston prices flooded into the heart of the Commonwealth, driving median prices up 15% year over year. But look at the March 2026 data. In zip codes like 01604 and 01605, the days on market, DOM, has climbed from a frantic 6 days to a whopping 24 days. What does that mean for you? It means you can actually take a breath. You don't have to waive your inspection on a Friday night to get a house on a Saturday morning. The story is even more dramatic. Inventory is up 35% compared to this time last year. As remote work policies in 2026 have finally settled into hybrid models, the long-distance lure of Western Mass has hit a ceiling. This isn't a crash, it's a correction of reality. Sellers who priced their homes based on 2023 panic buying are now being forced to slash prices by $20,000 to $50,000 just to get people through the front door. If you've been looking at the $450,000 range in these cities, you are no longer competing with 20 all-cash offers. You are competing with people just like you. Worcester and Springfield were the first to feel the heat, but as the cooling effect moves along the state's transit corridors, it's hitting the coast in a way that many thought was impossible. Let's head south to the secret coast, where the prices are finally coming back to earth. For decades, the South Coast was the affordable alternative that no one wanted to admit they lived in. Then came the South Coast. Between 2023 and 2025, speculators rushed into Fall River and New Bedford, betting that the new train connection to Boston would turn these historic port cities into Quincy 2.0. Prices skyrocketed. But in early 2026, the investor bubble has met the local income reality. The median price in Fall River has seen a 4.5% dip in the last quarter, the first negative growth since the pandemic. Why? Because the supply of renovated flipped houses has finally exceeded the number of people willing to commute 60 minutes into Boston. In New Bedford, we are seeing something even more interesting. The waterfront developments that were aimed at luxury buyers are sitting empty. To fill them, developers are offering concessions. 2 months of free rent or massive closing cost credits for buyers. The hidden heartland of the South Coast is finally yours again. The rail hype is baked into the price, and now that the novelty has worn off, the market is returning to the people who actually live and work in the South Coast. For 10 years, the North Shore was the golden child of Massachusetts real estate. But even the brightest stars eventually burn out, or at least they dim to a more manageable glow. Let's talk about Lynn. For a decade, Lynn was marketed as the next big thing. Developers poured millions into luxury apartments overlooking the harbor, betting that the Boston spillover would never end. But in April 2026, the data shows a starkly different reality. In the 01902 and 01905 zip codes, we are seeing a pricing stagnation that hasn't occurred since 2012. While the median price still sits around $580,000, the price per square foot has actually dropped by 3.2% since January. Why? Because the luxury ceiling has been hit. Then there is Salem. The witch city became a victim of its own success. Tourism was booming, but the October effect on real estate, where prices spiked every fall, has finally normalized. In 2026, the frenzy of bidding wars in the McIntyre district has been replaced by negotiated sales. Sellers who were asking for $750,000 in 2025 are now settling for $690,000 after 30 days on the market. The North Shore is experiencing what economists call a flight to quality. Buyers are no longer settling for fixer-uppers at premium prices. They are demanding value. If a house in Peabody or Salem isn't move-in ready, it sits. And when it sits, the price drops. This is the ripple effect in reverse. As the extreme prices of Boston cool, the pressure on the inner ring suburbs is being released like a valve. For you, the buyer, this means the North Shore is no longer a war zone. It's a marketplace again. The coast is cooling because of market exhaustion. But as we move inland, the cooling isn't just happening by accident. It's being forced by the most controversial law in Massachusetts history. Let's look at how the 3A impact is finally unlocking the suburbs. 177 communities, one law, and thousands of new front doors. Welcome to the era of the MBTA Communities Act. 177 communities, one law, and thousands of new front doors. Welcome to the era of the MBTA Communities Act. Look at Lowell. As a high-intensity MBTA community, Lowell has approved over 600 new multifamily units in the last 18 months alone. This massive surge in rental and condo supply is doing something the Fed couldn't do. It's putting downward pressure on single-family home prices. In Framingham, a similar story is unfolding. Because there are now more luxury apartment options near the train station, the demand for older, smaller starter homes has softened. In April 2026, the median price for a 3-bedroom cape in Framingham has dropped to $595,000, down from its peak of $640,000. This is a supply-side reset. For years, Massachusetts was a state of NIMBYs, not in my backyard. But the state government finally forced the backyard open. In towns like Waltham and Natick, the inventory crunch is being solved by new zoning, and the cooling you are seeing is the sound of a market finally finding its balance. The MBTA Act is the silver bullet we were promised. By decoupling housing from land scarcity in the suburbs, the state has created a cooling zone for the middle class. If you are looking to buy in a town with a train station, 2026 is the year the zoning premium finally evaporated. Suburban zoning is changing the game for commuters. But if you truly want to see a market that has moved from boom to buyer's paradise, we have to leave the 128 belt behind and head into the mountains. The Berkshires are calling, and the prices there are doing something no one expected. The air in the Berkshires has always been thin, but in 2026, the price bubble in Western Mass has finally run out of oxygen. During the Great Reshuffle of 2021 to 2024, the Berkshires became the ultimate escape for wealthy New Yorkers and Bostonians. They didn't just buy homes, they bought lifestyles at any price. But as we move into April 2026, the Airbnb gold rush has officially ended. In Pittsfield, the largest city in the region, the market is doing something it hasn't done in a decade. It's stalling. Inventory in Berkshire County is up a staggering 50% compared to this time last year. Why? Because the short-term rental market has become oversaturated, and many investors are now panic selling to get out from under high-interest debt. In Pittsfield, the largest city in the region, the market is doing something it hasn't done in a decade. It's stalling. Inventory in Berkshire County is up a staggering 50% compared to this time last year. Why? Because the short-term rental market has become oversaturated, and many investors are now panic selling to get out from under high-interest debt. Look at the 01201 zip code. The median price for a 4-bedroom colonial has dropped from $445,000 in 2025 to $417,000 today. That is a nearly 7% correction in just 12 months. In surrounding towns like Dalton and Lanesborough, homes that used to sell in a weekend are now sitting for 45 to 60 days. The Berkshires are returning to their roots. The vacation home premium has evaporated. For the local resident or the retiree looking for a permanent home, the Berkshires are finally on sale. You are no longer competing with an algorithm or a corporate landlord. You are competing with a seller who just wants to move on. This is the reality check. The mountains aren't going anywhere, but the unrealistic expectations of 2024 certainly are. If you've ever wanted a piece of the Berkshires, 2026 is the year the door swung wide open. The data is clear. From the coast to the mountains, the fever has broken. But knowing where the prices are dropping is only half the battle. To win in 2026, you need a new set of tools. You need to move from a victim of the market to the master of the negotiation. In 2023, the seller was the king. In 2026, the buyer is the boss. But only if you know how to talk the language of a balanced market. For years, Massachusetts buyers were forced to waive everything. No inspections, no mortgage contingencies, no repairs. In April 2026, that era is dead. Here is the Inside Massachusetts strategy for the current reset. The 30-day rule. If a house has been on the market for more than 30 days in a town like Lowell or Fall River, the power has shifted. You are now in a position to ask for seller concessions. In the last quarter, 25% of all closed sales in Massachusetts included a seller-paid credit toward closing costs. That is a massive shift from 0% just 2 years ago. The inspection resurrection. Never waive your inspection again. In a cooling market, the inspection report in PUS is your greatest negotiation tool. We are seeing buyers in Worcester successfully negotiate $10,000 to $15,000 off the price for simple roof or HVAC repairs. The interest rate buy-down. With 2026 rates stabilized but still higher than the 2020 lows, ask the seller to buy down your rate. This is a win-win. The seller keeps their sale price high, and you get a monthly payment you can actually afford. 2026 is the year of patience. The frantic FOMO, fear of missing out, has been replaced by JOMO, joy of missing out, on bad deals. The winners this year are the ones who realize that inventory is their ally. Don't chase the house. Let the house and the price come to you. We've seen the towns, we've analyzed the laws, and we've built the strategy. But one question remains. Is this the start of a crash or just a temporary breather before the Bay State booms again? Let's look at the winner's window. Is the Massachusetts price drop a warning sign of a crash? Or is it the springboard for the next generation of homeowners? History tells us that Massachusetts real estate doesn't crash, it breathes. Even in the depths of the 2008 crisis, the Bay State recovered faster and stronger than almost anywhere else. Why? Because we have the big three: education, healthcare, and tech. What we are seeing in 2026 in towns like Lynn, Salem, and Fitchburg isn't the end of the world. It's the great reset we desperately needed. It's the market finally acknowledging that teachers, nurses, and young professionals need a place to live, too. The cooling you see on the news is actually the sound of stability. It's the sound of a market where you can buy a home, raise a family, and not worry that you've made a catastrophic financial mistake. The winner's window is right now. As inventory continues to climb through the summer of 2026, the selection will be better than it has been in a decade. But don't wait too long. The fundamentals of Massachusetts, our schools, our safety, and our economy remain the best in the nation. While the headlines talk about prices dropping, the reality is that the value of living in Massachusetts has never been higher. The smart money isn't waiting for a $100,000 house in Boston. It's buying a $400,000 gem in Pittsfield or Lowell and building a life. The fever has broken. The map has reset. The only question left is, where will you plant your flag in the Bay State? I'm Peter, and this has been a deep dive from inside in Massachusetts. If you found this data valuable, hit that subscribe button and join our community of smart homeowners. Let us know in the comments. Which town on our list is your top pick for 2026? We'll see you in the next episode.